So I'm out here on a walk-in freezer tonight. It's got a Ke2 controller on it, and it's saying high superheat. So over here, we got a low charge situation. So we're gonna go get some service gauges, gauge up on this guy, bring some refrigerant with us too, R404A. We're gonna go downstairs and make sure we're not iced up on the evaporator first though. This is typical on a smart evaporator to have ice build up in the sides. I see this all the time. I'm not a fan of the smart defrost. This one has a Ke2 controller. So basically it can skip defrosts if it determines that the coil is not iced up, but half the time. I mean, they do okay. They keep the coil clear. So the coil's not iced up on this guy. I can see through it. But the manager told me that they have had to defrost it recently. So it's not. And I found this sitting in here, big old chunk of ice. So supposedly they've had to defrost it. It looks like there's a little bit of residual ice from what they didn't defrost inside there too. Good God, the fan blades look all bent up too, because they were in here pulling these fan blades out, I think. Okay, this is one of those instances where my headmaster is bypassing right now. You can physically feel it. Your discharge line is warm and it's cold coming out of the condenser, and then it's warm going to the liquid line, okay? So my headmaster's bypassing. Sight glass is still flashing. So what's happening is we're starving the evaporator coil, okay? This is one of those instances where this is the argument that I'm making. You know, I talk to people about how I charge a headmaster system in the field when you're like this, okay? I'm not gonna drag my recovery machine up here in the middle of the night to recover all the gas, then calculate the condenser charge, okay? So what I would do is I would basically charge to 3/4 of the receiver, pump down. That's the only way I could do it in the field right now, okay? Or you can basically clear the sight glass on the coldest day. So it's like 40 degrees outside right now, so it can get a little bit colder up here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear the sight glass, add a little bit extra temporarily, and then I'll probably end up coming back tomorrow doing a leak check and stuff like that, because it's real late at night right now, so I'm just gonna get them operational. But this is one of those times where I totally appreciate using like the Sporlan 90-30-1 to calculate the flooded winter charge. But when you're charging a system like this and you just got to get it running, sometimes, you know, it's kind of hard to do that. So that coil sensor that you see right there was pulled out of the coil. It's not very secured very well, so I went ahead and shoved it back in. That could be part of my defrost issue, because the thing's just incessantly defrosting over and over again. So I'll put that back in. It's coming out of defrost right now, and then we're going to test it. But this thing's been icing up, and I think the customer's been, well, I know they've been de-icing it because this fan blade's bent to all hell. So we're going to have to look at, I mean, look at that. Look at the difference. Like, see how that one's in? So that one's in, out. Like, the customer's been in here just wrenching on this thing. Dummies. It's going to vibrate like crazy, but I'm going to put everything back together. Like I said, there's still a little bit of ice over here, but we'll get to that. Okay, so the unit was defrosting like multiple times. I still don't know exactly what was going on, but I'm not going to spend all night here. I found that the evap sensor was pulled out of the evaporator coil, pushed that back in where it should be. We were at 25 when I got here. We're at 7 degrees right now, and it's coming down to temp pretty fast. I did have to top off the charge also on the roof. So I will be back. We're going to change those fan blades, finish de-icing this coil, figure out what the heck is going on with that controller, and then go from there. But, you know, big picture, I totally want to think about it, but it's 9:45 at night, and I just want to go home, and I'm an hour away from home. So get them going. We'll come back out and think of the big picture tomorrow. Okay, so this is the next morning. I'm back out here. I called and got some information from tech support. So now we're saying excess defrost, which basically from what I read and talked to tech support means that it went into defrost so many times that it locked out the automatic defrost or the demand defrost, and now it's just going to go to the default setting of 5 defrosts a day. So there's something going on, because last night it was, you know, going in and out of defrost. It's obviously down in temperature right now. Everything's frozen solid. I've got a thermometer. It's currently dropping, so we will what I'm going to try to do is go ahead and log in with my computer, because reading that scrolling thing is driving me nuts. So from what I'm told, I should be able to get into this controller right here. There should be an IP or basically an address to go to, and then I'll hook up with a Ethernet cable and then navigate to that address. Luckily, I have a long enough Ethernet cable that I can get out of the freezer and do this. So, and then we'll figure out what's going on. We got something going on with the defrost. So a couple things I'm going to change here, or I already did change, and I'll show you guys in my set points. Number one, I left the evaporator fan motors on permanent. So that means while it's in refrigeration mode, they had it set up to only run the evaps with the compressor. That's a personal preference of mine. I want even airflow, so I want that evaporator fan motor running even in the off cycle. But when it goes into defrost, the evaporator fan motors will turn off. Okay, so I changed that. For now, we disconnected. There's a shut-off switch inside the box, and I think that switch might be going bad, so we disabled that. That was the digital input 1 mode. There was no door switch, so I don't know why they had a door switch on there. We turned that off. So I haven't decided if I'm going to take it out of demand defrost as of yet. I'm going to leave it in right now and monitor the situation. So right now we are in the off mode because it's satisfied via box temp, but the evaporator fan motors are still running. Okay, we're still showing excess defrost, but I haven't dealt with that yet. Okay, another useful feature I want to point out is the graphs. Okay, I forgot I'm not touchscreen. I like the graphs because you can actually see trends. Okay, and if you pay attention, you can actually see right here where I'm at right now. Look at the green versus the blue. That's my coil temp versus my air temp. So you notice how much lower my coil temp is than my air temp. Okay, this is the refrigerant problem issue yesterday, right? But then also, you can see how there's a difference. If we bring the cursor right over here, right here, there's a bigger temperature difference between evap and coil temp versus over here. And more than likely, that's because this refrigerant leak has, and it's big right here, but then it gets tighter and tighter and tighter right here. And that's the refrigerant leak trend. So I do like graphs for trending reasons, okay? Now, let's point out that this multiple defrost like this is not correct. That's a problem. That's a big problem. So we're still gonna figure out. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in there right now. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. I'm gonna go in there and de-ice the evaporator coil. Remember on the left side, all the electrical was still had a bunch of ice. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna inspect the switch and then test the sensors. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this off for the moment. So I came up here to shut this system off, okay, my compressor down there, but it's important to understand something. I have to, first off, there's 2 breakers. There's one for the compressor and one for the evaporator, but I didn't want to shut it off until the system was calling, because I'm also going to do a leak check along with defrosting it. So I've got it marked right there, breaker number 2, compressor, breaker number 6, evaporator. Okay, so now we'll go downstairs, verify everything's off, de-ice it, and then do a leak check. So like I showed last night, we just got like a little bit of residual ice there. And a bunch right there. Which is gonna suck because that's all the electrical stuff. So I've got power turned off, I confirmed it. We're just gonna slowly start melting that. Everything's gonna get wet, there's no way around it. So I'm just gonna deal with it. So I pulled the evap sensor out. You can see how, I think that's from the customer. I pointed that out last night. It was a little bit more. I think that's from them. But pulled the evap sensor out and check this out. Look at what I found. It's broken right here. So the protective jacket's broken. So that could totally be part of our problem. What I'm told is by Ke2 or Ke2 Therm, when I talk to tech support, they tell me that the differential or the temperature difference between the supply or the evaporator temp and the box temp is what puts the unit into a defrost. So if it gets within 3 degrees temperature difference, then it's going to initiate a defrost. So I'm wondering if this is our problem, that broken sensor. where it might work, but then eventually moisture gets in there and messes with the sensor. So we're gonna have to change the sensor on this guy too. So to test the sensors, you want 5100 ohms or 5.1 k ohms at 32 degrees. So I've got a ice bath. This is the new sensor because I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it, but I'm just showing you guys. And when we get the old one out, we'll test it too, just for giggles. Just want to point something out. I'm in the process of changing these sensors, and it's a pain in the butt. You got to get in here, you got to run them. You know, they're going. I'm changing the suction line sensor right now. There's my air sensor for my box temp, and then the evaporator sensor is embedded in the coil over there. But don't take this the wrong way. But this job, working in commercial refrigeration, the light commercial restaurant stuff, isn't for everybody. And it's not that I don't think everybody can do this job. It's that I think, you know, how can I say this lightly? You got to be cautious and you got to be realistic. If you're a big boy, it's going to be hard. I'm a big boy already. I'm almost 200 pounds, and it's hard for me to get into this stuff. I'm currently sitting on top of a shelf that I probably shouldn't be sitting on. I'm, you know, weaseled in here. It's definitely tight. I'm, you know, tucked back in here. You got to watch, and so, I mean, you got to be realistic and understand that this isn't always for everybody, okay? And whether you're big or not, I mean, you got to be able to get into tight spaces. So things like this, fire sprinkler, literally inches from me. How do I get up here without, I mean, someone's already bent that fire sprinkler. So you got to be cautious about that stuff. It's tight, cramped spaces. Not trying to be a punk or anything. I'm just trying to be realistic and explain it to people. This is, there's certain aspects of this trade. Restaurants especially are kind of hard because oftentimes we're working in the cook's line in tight little places. So this is looking really good now. Superheat's getting dialed in. Box temp is almost down to temp. Looking really good. So we're gonna let this operate for a couple days. I'm gonna bring back some evaporator fan motors, and then we'll do a trending graph when we come back to see if our defrost problems have been solved. This is today. And this was because I shut the unit off. That wasn't a defrost. It just came that high. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully we solve the defrosting problem. Refrigerant pressures are looking really good. It's about 60 degrees outside, and it's -9 in the box right now. We're running a clear sight glass, so that's a plus. Looking good there. So I will be back to follow up because we're going to change those evaporator fan blades, and we'll follow up with everything. Return today to go ahead and replace these blades. Got some new ones right here. So I'll get those swapped out, and then we'll check on the controller and see if we have the defrosting issue continue. I noticed that we've still got a little residual frost on the top of the coil. What I did was my defrost sensor, I moved it higher, or my coil sensor I should say. It was down lower, so I moved it one rung higher in hopes that we can maybe not terminate defrost so fast. So we'll see what that does and we'll monitor it. I don't think it's anything I need to worry about too much right now. You can see how fast that scrolls. It makes it really difficult to service that unit. So this unit, I just turned it on because they were loading the box. But I changed the evaporator fan motors. You can clearly hear how much better they're running without vibrating and moving air like they're supposed to be now. But you see I had to hook up sensors. Got a Ethernet cable and then run it all the way out of the box. Okay, so we are back in, and we're going to test to see if we've been having our consistent defrost issues. So what we're going to do is go, let me try to remember what I'm doing here. Oh, we're going to go to graphs. Yes, that's much better than the previous. So you can obviously see that there was something going on there, like where then maybe it was iced up or something from them leaving a door open. But look at our defroster, so much better, as opposed to where it was like crazy consistent before. It is much better. So we're looking good. So overall, I really dig this this controller once you can get into it with the computer. You can basically see everything. So we're in refrigeration mode. My room temp is 9 degrees. Coil temp is -1. It shows you everything. Sensors are looking good. Suction pressure, saturation temp. You know, the only thing that would make this perfect is if we had a discharge line transducer on here. That would make it even better. Or a liquid line transducer, so then you could see the refrigerant pressures high and low. That would be kind of cool. But again, you wouldn't have a sight glass showing you, you know, whether or not you have a clear column of liquid going. I guess you can probably see that in some kind of subcooling or something. But yeah, so this is looking good so far. So we solved the problem. So what we did last time was I went ahead and changed all the sensors for the coil, and it looks like we solved our defrosting issue. Because remember, it was defrosting like every 20 minutes before. So that's a much better defrost situation there. Much better. You can definitely see there's some close together defrost right here, but it's doing much better. Much better. I like it. I like it a lot. And this is today over here on the left. So right now they're loading a product delivery, so they've had the door open for quite a while, so that's why the temp came up so high. So more than likely it's going to go into a defrost soon. Cool. This looks bitchin'. Alright guys, so this was a service call obviously on a walk-in freezer. It started out as an overtime service call, and the first part of the video, you know, I just got the unit operational. So I found that we were low on charge, and what happened was it got really cold outside. It's unusually cold for here in California, and our head pressure control valve bypassed. But when it bypassed, we didn't have enough refrigerant in the system to properly deliver liquid refrigerant to the expansion valve. Okay, so the expansion valve started to try to feed vapor. And when it started to feed vapor, the temperatures inside the unit just basically fell off the map. So I arrived, I got the unit operational by topping off the charge temporarily. Then we came back out the next day and next morning and did a leak check. Now, I tore that unit apart and for the life of me could not find a leak. That doesn't mean that a leak doesn't exist, okay? I leak checked the condensing unit really thoroughly and leak checked the evaporator thoroughly and found nothing. So that does leave the line set. But I didn't have to add very much gas, okay? So I'm not going to tear apart the line set at this time. We're going to let this one go, because it was just the winter charge, and I don't even know that it was the full winter charge. It was just some of the winter charge that was low. So, excuse me. So, we're going to monitor it. This is a customer of ours that we do routine preventative maintenances. So we're just going to monitor the system. And if we find the need, we'll go ahead and do a leak check on the line set. But that's pretty invasive. We've got to tear all kinds of stuff apart. So that's why we're going to wait for that to become an issue. Okay. So when I topped off the charge, everything was working fine. Then I dove into the other problems. I needed to figure out the defrost issue. The defrosting issue, as best as I could tell, was because we had some bad sensors. Now, let me tell you that tech support was very, very good, and they were very nice, but they could not figure out the excessive defrost issues. And I was a little concerned about the sensors, but I was kind of told by tech support, the sensors usually are either good or bad. Well, I just wasn't really buying that one, okay? But like I said, they were great guys. I investigated a little bit more. Now, I did make some adjustments to the settings inside the unit, which tech support very much helped me do that, okay? I found some weird things, like someone had a door switch on this thing, but it didn't have one. Someone had a coil switch on there, but it actually didn't have one. That was disconnected in the way that it was hooked up. And then, so I ended up replacing all the evaporator sensors. And then also you guys saw that I ended up going back and replacing the bent fan blades too. Also ended up moving one of the sensors because even when I came back on my final follow-up, I found that I was still getting a little residual frost on the top of the coil. And that is basically because the temperature or the coil temperature sensor, it needed to be moved higher basically. So I moved it up one rung. We'll keep an eye on that too. Okay, you guys kind of saw this one as I was running into it. I've never really worked with these Ke2 Therm temperature controllers. Overall, it's a great controller in my opinion, if you have access to it via a computer. Now, like I said, that night I was trying to access that controller from the display on the controller, and my gosh, if I had to try to do everything that I did through the display, I would go crazy. Okay, so definitely do not appreciate those for the display that they have. But
being able to access them via computer, like it was like a game changer, okay? But luckily I was able to get an Ethernet cable that was long enough. I think that was like a 50 or 75 foot Ethernet cable. So luckily I was able to pick one of those up. They do make some other options, and I'm going to investigate some more on how to hook up like a router and different things. I do know that the controller that is on my particular unit is their version 3, and it's a very old version. So I got to talk to them a little bit more to see if there's a better way that we can access this controller. Other than that, guys, I really suggest, if you have the right setup, I think that this controller could really help you and save some energy for sure. So definitely think it's a good thing. Think that they're worth trying out. They seem to have a very solid product. I don't see anything hokey on them. So, I think it's a cool product. So check it out. I imagine you can get them at your normal suppliers or anything. And I got to make it clear too, I have no affiliation with Ke2 Therm. This is the first time I've walked into one of those. I've seen them before, but I've just never worked with the evap efficiency controller. I've installed their tiny controllers on reach-in coolers and stuff. The ones that have a temperature and defrost built in and stuff. But anyways, so hey, really want to say thanks a lot for taking the time to watch my video. Really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And popping up right now is some other channels I highly recommend you guys check out, okay? Do me a favor, guys. Leave me some feedback down in the YouTube comments. Let me know what you think, okay? All right. Catch you guys on the next one.